and welcome back to the Buff Life. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, today I'm going to be coming to you with another episode of People Behaving Badly. I hope you guys liked the other video. If you haven't had a chance to see that video, be sure to look at my video entourage and you will see that video in there. So, on this episode of People Behaving Badly, today we're putting the spotlight on two officers that were arrested in a small town in Pennsylvania. So it all starts back in 2012. A young girl went to her substitute teacher at school and told her teacher that she was being molested by an officer. So that teacher, she did the right thing. She went immediately to the police department and she filed a report. Now, she didn't go within that district where that police officer was. And I'm not sure why she went to the one that she did go to, which was Franklin Township, is where she went and reported the crime. But maybe she did it out of fear of that particular officer who and where he worked in that particular area where they lived. But nonetheless, she reported it. And after she reported, an investigation ensued, but no charges were ever brought against this. So it's like the case just went into nothingness. So from 2012, let's skip ahead all the way to 2015. So in 2015, another officer laid eyes on the case and he looked into it and he started an investigation. They brought the charges together to put it before the judicial judge, well, the judge to determine whether or not they were going to bring charges against the officer. That judge dismissed the charges because of they said it was an error, a clinic, basically, I guess it was like basically an error in the paperwork. Okay, so that means that if he dismissed it because of that error, clerical error, let's call it, that means that it's now the job of that police department to fix that error and then go back before the judge. Well, apparently that didn't happen because here we are now in 2018 when this happens. And in 2018, a new officer takes another look at that particular case. Thank God for him. So he takes a look at that case and he right away and wants to find out what's going on. They launch an investigation. And in doing so, he decides that I need to interview this victim again. So he brings the victim in, who is still younger. She's still a girl, a young girl, should I say. And he asks her what happened. And yeah, clearly she comes out and says, Gregory Wagner, a police officer in Wiseport, has not only has he molested me, but he's raped me. And now he's also been joined by a friend of his. Who is that friend, they ask? None other than the police chief of Wiseport. His name is Brent Getz, and he's 28 years old. Now, as soon as I heard that in my mind, I said, okay, something's not right with this entire picture. And let me tell you why. Why are you a police chief at 28? You've had enough life experience to be a police chief at 28? Come on, we don't even know who we really are at the age of 28. In my eyes, at 28, people are still thinking like teenagers, but somebody stood there and they decided that they needed to vote you in and make you a chief of police at 28. They need to be scolded for that because I've never seen a 28-year-old that needs to be a chief of police of any department, and he's not even seasoned. To me, you should be a seasoned officer. So, nonetheless, 28, he is now being named not only by this girl. So, that once they get Gregory Wagner, the original person who started molesting and raping this girl, that officer, and they got him into the office, he confessed. He confessed that what she was saying was in fact true. Okay. He said, yes, I have done it, and my friend has helped me, and dropped the dime on his friend, who is the police chief that I'm talking about, Brent Getz. Now, mind you, I don't know, to me, I feel like the police department is just hiring anybody that's willing to put that badge on and walk around and kill people. Because there's so many officers now who are being found that they are just not there. They've used that licensed police officer badge to kill people, to beat people, and to do the most heinous things to people. And then when people bring it up, they're not believed. But in this case, to me, I think it was a department cover up, and I'll tell you why. Why did this girl have to wait 7 years for some justice? I want you all to think about this. If you have children, each and every one of us have told our children, if someone tries to hurt you or does something wrong to you, you tell me, you tell your father, or you tell a teacher, you tell somebody so that you can get some help. And this Poor girl did that. She went to a substitute teacher and told him, and that teacher did the right thing. God bless the teacher. She did the right thing. She reported it. But it took 7 years and three different sets of eyes to look at something before they decide they want to go ahead and press charges and bring in these people. Now, during this time, these men have had successful careers. They've continued on with their practice. And let me just say this to you. This girl said it started when she was 4 and she was now 12 and it hadn't stopped. So they ended up going to Gregory Wagner's house, and after they arrested him and got a search warrant and went in, and they found several electronic devices that they say contain Google searches for pornography for children. In one of the girl's statements, she said that they forced her to watch pornography that was involved with children or teenagers having sex with men. So this is what they found in his electronic devices. No, there's no word yet on to what Brent Getz was they found on Brent Getz, but I imagine it's not going to be very far from it. And in my eyes, all I can say is thank you, Jesus, that they found these people and they got them in prison. I only hope that the law sees fit to prosecute them the way they should be prosecuted. Now, here's the thing that bothers me the most out of all this. So not only did this girl endure with all this for 7 straight years, but her life, her world is just crushed. Can you imagine believing in adults and thinking that they're going to help you and that I'm sure her family taught her you obey police officers and respect them. So she thought that's what she was supposed to do is obey and respect them. But then turns out these are the same people who decide they want to abuse you. And all in the name of their own sick, twisted, lustful selves. That's who wanted to do it. And it really hurts me to know that this poor child had to suffer for 7 years to even begin to have someone to really help her. All I can say is thank God now she is there. They are being prosecuted. And all I can say is where there's one victim, there's more. So I don't think that they would just stop with that girl. I imagine there could be a long list of girls or even women who have been abused by these men. And in my eyes, any of the cases that they worked on that were sexual problems or sexually involved victims, I do believe you need to research those cases and make sure that they had nothing illegitimate that they've done in those crimes. Because at this point, Gregory Wagner, the one who originally started molesting and raping her, he started when he was 22 and he was already an officer, 22 years old. Okay. So he didn't just come up with these thoughts. You have to look all the way back in this man's childhood and see where this came from, because I don't think she was the first one, and she probably wasn't the last. And it's just something that they really need to take a look at. And I like to ask the police department, how are you testing these men? Why are there so many police officers with these violent tendencies? Are you hiring aggressive men to be a police officer? Because, a lot of them are just shooting people with handcuffs on, shooting them in their back, strangling people, choking them, kicking them, doing everything they possibly can. To me, they're the violent ones because they're the ones doing the most crimes. And it just, I don't know how I would handle that. That's something like that happened to someone in my family or my child. I'd probably lose my mind. I don't even think they would have lasted 7 years if I would have found out about it. Because this is something that this poor child had no control over. She was innocent and she did nothing wrong. And now that they are they were walking around for all those years thinking they were the king of the hill, doing whatever they wanted to do. And it's just horrible to hear that. So it was just very sad reading about this case. If you'd like to check on it, though, like I said, it happened in a small town in Pennsylvania called Wiseport. And and actually, I believe it's in the New York Times. So you might be able to find it there, or just Google it and it should come up. And it's probably going to be saying something like police chief arrested. I think that's how it starts off, police chief arrested. And just follow along with this case, and continually educate your family members, your children, and your family, and let them know it is not okay for these officers to get away with that. It is not okay for anyone to get away with it. And I feel like if you're an officer of the law and you do a crime like this, you shouldn't be getting the normal time that the general public would get. Your time should be much worse. And let me tell you why. Because you are trained to protect people, and you're out here committing the very crimes that you've arrested other people for. How then can we find your word to be legitimate? So you need to pay a worse crime than anybody else, because you know right from wrong. It's not like you didn't know. You knew the right from wrong. I guarantee you, if it was their children out there getting raped and beaten and molested and all these things happening to them, I guarantee you they would be out there trying to find who that was and crucify them. So if that's the way that they handle it, then so shall it be. They need to. I don't care if the crime is 20 years. They need to get 40 years. They need double the penalty because they knew more than more than anything else than anyone else. They knew what was right and what was wrong. So I don't know. And I think those police, the people that voted this guy in as a police chief in Wrightsport, they actually need to get charges put against them as well. Because I don't know how anybody in their right mind could hire a 28-year-old as a police chief. And this guy, they had some signs of what they were doing. Somewhere, somebody saw something, and I just feel like the police department kept it buried for all this long, so that they thinking that this girl would just go away, that this whole thing would go away. Luckily, there was an officer there that actually believes in the law, and they did not let up. And that was the greatest thing that I could ever hear. And I just keep my optimism alive when it comes to that part. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and talk to you about what I heard in the news because it just really hit my heart because I have a child, I have a grandchild, and I have people around me with children, and I just couldn't imagine them going through that for 7 years. I swear, I mean, I couldn't even contain myself if I found out something like that happened to one of them. It would just hurt me so deeply. So my heart and my soul just pray so deeply for this girl and that she will recover from this. And I pray that these people are prosecuted for what they've done to her. And I hope that it's not one of those cases where they get in there and because they're police officer, they show them some leniency. That means nothing. I don't understand why you wouldn't persecute them more. They always know the law. They've arrested people for doing this, but they don't feel like they need to. They haven't really talked about how these guys are going to plead. They haven't talked about if they had lawyers or how it's going to work. But no matter what they do, I just feel like this poor girl suffered enough, and it's time to let her get some justice. And it's sad because I feel like, in a way, they're going to demoralize her and make her testify or subject her to more torment or try to make it some lawyer somewhere is going to insinuate that this girl wanted it or this girl did something to provoke it and she's in the wrong. It's always weird like that to me when I see cases like this and the lawyers for the opposite side go out and say something like, well, this is the way she dressed or her activity in the neighborhood, and people said this and people said that. These are children you're talking about. But when it gets in there, these lawyers, they get down and nasty. And I just hope that because she's a young victim, she will not have to testify in front of a court. I hope she's not scrutinized the way they scrutinize any other young adult who's reported something like that. It's time the law put its gavel down on all these people. And it's just sad to me how many young children have been molested or raped by priests and law enforcement and people in general, and but then made to believe like they've done something wrong. It's a society we don't want to do that in our society. We want something better. We need to progress and not digress. I'm sorry, digress. We don't need to do that. So that's just me coming to you about something that touched my heart and touched my soul. And I just had to talk about it. So I'm just letting you guys know what's out there. Please make sure you check it out for yourself and follow along and keep your prayers out for this young girl to hope that she gets some type of um, relief as far as not having to be tortured anymore. And hopefully the law prosecutes these people and she doesn't have to go through some tedious scrutinizing interviews over something like this. It's just basically making her suffer more. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. And if you have any questions or comments, please make sure you put those in the comments down below. Don't forget to click that subscribe button for my next video. You guys take care. God bless you and have the most exciting night that you could ever have. And for God's sakes, don't get in any trouble because I don't want to see that happening. So anyway, you guys take care and good night. Bye. Yeah, no, no, no.